What was it going back? Da-da-da. See, I take mine in the morning, so now I'm far away from
Yeah, I mean, I did
my
take
little
my
boost.
afternoonie today, but it's gone. It's 9:30.
I adore the fact that you call it an afternoonie, by the way. Hello, and welcome to the Inner Moxie podcast, the podcast about not one, but two neurodivergent adults trying to live their lives on the neuro D list and not hate themselves in the process. I'm your host, Ronnie,
And I'm Zanny.
and this week we will be talking about diagnoses. Diagnoses? Diagnosi.
Diagnose, I like it.
All
All right. Well, so we had our take two maiden voyage last week.
That's right.
So here we are again. Oh, I just dated this episode. Fuck. Just
That's
right
fine.
after we talked about it.
It's all good.
Whatever. So, before we get going talking about diagnosi
Mhm.
on the neuro D list,
Right.
where are you on your Moxie scale? 0 means you want to peace out. And the
That's a
biggest
nice way
number,
to put it.
yeah,
0 means nap time.
Zero
However
means
long that nap is.
power
for real.
down, napped forever, or whatever.
Right.
And the highest number you feel comfortable with is your best life.
Okay. I'm going to go with I'm going to go with a 2. I honestly, for reasons actually that we'll be talking about later on in this particular episode, I was not feeling so great this week. But I did have a chance to talk to my therapist, which was helpful. And I'm in the middle of some reframing stuff, and I'm still getting a little bit of a bump on the old happy juices in the brain. What do you call those happy juices?
Dopamine?
Dopamine or serotonin, right?
I don't
That's
know.
I don't know. One of those. I'm still getting a little bump on those from doing these episodes. So
Oh,
that's a
maybe
good
it's
thing.
serotonin. That is a good thing. Maybe it's both.
Yeah. I don't know.
We're on our computers today, so maybe we can Google it on the side.
That's true.
I
That's
have
true.
this
'Cause-
whole other monitor over here.
Oh, so fancy. I
I'm
also have 2
fancy.
monitors. I actually have so many monitors in my garage. I have
Oh.
because I used to do video stuff, so audio editing or audio, video editing, stuff like that, and I had like a whole office and stuff like that, and it's since closed down, and I still have a lot of that equipment.
Hey, you never know when you're going to need to use it,
Yeah, hopefully soon.
reinvigorate it. Yeah.
Hopefully soon, because it's
Hopefully.
taking up my room in my garage for other things that
Like
other
cars?
cars. No, who parks their cars in the garage?
Oh, it took my parents until both of us were out of the house, me and my brother, probably, well, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Mhm.
Started doing that. You got time.
Yeah, no, I would sooner, and as an adult, have sooner not had a car than put a car in a garage.
Really?
That's where I keep my projects. I got like 2. I know I'm about to be the most stereotypical ADHD person in the world right now.
Fine.
I'm kind of building my own arcade out there, so I have a half finished arcade machine with no monitor that I'm going to build into a 4-player classics arcade machine. I have my fighting arcade machine, which is
Street
2-player.
Fighter 2?
I'm going to put it on there. It's going to be a multi-cab.
Okay.
I
I'll
have
play
my
Street Fighter.
air hockey table, which I think just needs some dust, and I think is in pretty good shape. And my newest one that I've been working on quite a lot is my pinball machine,
Nice.
a 1971 Doodlebug by Williams. And
Cool.
so that's why I will never use my garage for anything.
Okay. Other than
Yeah, and there's also all kinds of like woodworking projects out there, and it's
Huh.
it's
Well-
my ADHD den. I
Hey,
hate the term
you know.
man cave. That's
Yeah.
I've
It's
always
very,
been bothered by that
because
term.
the woman cave is in the kitchen, don't you know?
Yeah,
That's our room.
I always thought woman cave was what do you call it for a
she
vagina? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that giant cul-de-sac in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. I don't like man cave either.
Mhm.
Um, but I had a thought and it left. Oh, I don't have a garage, so you're bougie again.
I know. I am super bougie.
You are. My whole house is my garage because I'm the only person in it and cats.
Well, okay, I have 5 humans in this, so I need the garage.
Yeah, you
As
gotta.
I would easily keep the pinball machine in the house had I had the room,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
not the children that will destroy it because I love it.
Yeah, that's what they do, right? Little
Yeah,
parasites.
they are, but I love them.
You do.
I
You
do.
know, and I am, I think it's really great the way that you got them. If we're not
I
talking about that, you can edit this out.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
I think the statute of limitations has passed. I kidnapped all 3 of my children from it. No,
Wow, that's what I meant.
no, no. I'm a foster to adopt dad.
Hmm.
For it's weird. I have to look away from you because I'm like, you know that information.
I
Hello,
do.
imaginary audience.
Hmm.
That's who I'm addressing when I look away from you.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm a foster to adopt dad. So that's
Yeah.
where my 3 kids come from.
My godchildren are also that.
I know
Um,
they're pretty wonderful. I mean,
yeah.
it's a big package. I mean, I assume your godkids are. I don't know them,
Yes, they
but
all came at the same time.
nice.
Literally a big package.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah,
So
they're great.
how's you doing on the scale of inner
Um,
Moxie?
I mean, as you all can probably see if you are watching this, and if you are not, then you don't know. Maybe you can hear it.
Yeah.
We are recording from our own home studios, aka my little office slash side of my living room next to the hallway
Yes.
that is public, for me anyway. And
And
we're
I am in
recording
a
on a.
black hole.
He is. I mean, you could get lost in there. He's all interstellar. Um, so it's Thursday, which we usually record before this in the week, and
Mhm.
I have discovered that my brain definitely gets refreshed on the weekends, and the more I use it, because unfortunately work requires it, um, I kind of like lose that momentum over the week. I'm
Mhm.
still like it's crazy. I was writing again in my journal this morning because I check in with myself every day.
Yay.
Um, yay. Uh, Still like super excited to see what like is coming next. All of that stuff. But I'm also I don't know, like tired, and not it's
Yes.
not physically. I don't know.
No, but I mean, like what do you call it? The spoon theory, or for folks with. Oh, do you not know spoon
I
theory?
don't. I don't.
Oh, actually, this is kind of interesting. There's that people, and typically neurodiverse people have less spoons, but people have a certain amount of spoons, metaphorical spoons, at the
Oh.
beginning of day, and so every time they do a task, you give one of those spoons. And so the idea being that you only have so many spoons. At a
Hmm.
certain point, you're going to run out of spoons to give. And there is a special one called fork theory for neurodivergent folk in general, but specifically ADHD folk,
Hmm.
which just in case you're new here, both of us have.
Hmm.
But they call it fork theory because each task breaks off into 3 or 4 other tasks.
Oh, 100%. That's
And
why
so
I hopped on late.
yeah, of there's a classic Malcolm in the Middle where they do an amazing job illustrating it in the opening gag. But like Hal goes to change a light bulb, and
Hmm.
then he goes over, but the the drawer is squeaky, so he goes to get the the WD-40, but then they're all out, so he has to go to the hardware store, but he turns on the car and it's making a strange noise, and then so he's like underneath the car working on it, and Lois gets home and she's like, did you get a chance to change the light bulb? And he's like, what the hell does it look like I'm doing?
I identify with that.
So much.
Um, so, yeah, I'm out of forks.
Yeah.
I could also say I'm out of fucks because
Yeah.
sometimes my patience is real thin. Not so much this week though, patience
Oh, yeah.
wise. I don't know if it's people acting right lately. That can't really be it though. So I think my my patience is just not so testy. I
Have
don't
you been
know.
keeping with the meditation? Maybe that's
Oh, you know what?
part
Yeah,
of it.
not today. I had a fork after fork after fork morning this morning,
Mm.
and I had a hard time focusing despite having taken Adderall and given it the right amount of time to kick in. So
Hmm.
my wheels were spinning like extra this morning, um, partially because one of my cats threw up
Oh no.
last night, so I had to wash the thing. Anyway, no one wants to hear about that. So
Never say no one. There's
true,
always one person
true.
that will be very specifically like, tell me more about the cat vomit.
Okay. Well, we all know what it
Slowly.
is. I put in flooring. Okay. I don't like
Mhm.
carpet, and I have like a square carpet, like where my couch is, and I have like this long runner thing, um, like kind of in front of like the cat boxes, and then I have like floor mats for the bathroom.
Okay.
And these assholes always they have to book it for the carpet. They don't want to puke on the floor.
Hmm.
And then I came home and then someone else did that. But they also broke into my bathroom trash can and I think someone ate a Q-tip because they do that because they're beautiful little geniuses.
it's it's that hunter nature that's still in them.
Well, the Q-tips are dead, dead, dead. So I don't know what they want. Anyway, so I didn't even give a number. In the middle of whatever scale, I don't really feel like wasting any forks on it.
Right?
If that makes
You're
sense.
gonna
Yeah.
give a 50%.
I'm at a 50, which is not bad for a Thursday. At
Good.
now it's 8:30 p.m. And this is bedtime for me
Oh,
normally.
okay.
So,
Well, then
I mean, I'll be fine. I've got some Dr. Pepper zero sugar, strawberries and
Ooh,
cream. This thing is better than I thought it could be because I thought it would
Dr.
be
Pepper.
disgusting.
Dr. Pepper's pretty good. Like I generally hate diet stuff. They're pretty good about it. They're not as bad as the others.
It's great. A&W. Anyway. Um, so I believe today we're talking about diagnoses.
We are. We are. And I would bring up that for me there's probably three diagnosis stories that I need to tell. And I'll tease them really quick
Okay.
if you don't mind.
I
Uh,
don't.
the first one would be the first time I got diagnosed, which was in the early 90s. I putting together some quick math in my head, probably around
92?
92 or 93.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the when I got diagnosed with ADHD, the being diagnosed as an adult or being re-diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, which happened a few years ago now. We'll call it five. Um, and then I am currently in the process of being evaluated for a possible diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, ASD. And
Okay.
so, um, just to hop in on that, the story of me being diagnosed in the 90s when I was a kid, when diagnoses of ADHD were kind of on the rise. I think at the time we were still calling it ADD. Um, Sadly, I remember next to nothing about it. Like
Hmm.
all I remember was at some point they had me go up to the nurse's office at lunch to take a pill, uh, and that it was me and the other kid who I was falling behind educationally. He was what you'd call a behaviors child, or probably not what you would call a behaviors child, but what
Right.
people uneducated and stuff would call a behaviors child. So I wish that I had more to report back on that.
Okay. I mean, you
But
can't help what you don't remember.
right, uh, despite
So,
despite some hypnosis claims from the 80s.
oh God.
Uh, but Yeah, so I was, and it was, I was considered under the ADD umbrella for a surprisingly short amount of time because it was a scholastic thing, and I started taking the Ritalin, and my grades started to improve. I actually went from RSP, which is a resource specialty program, which is a
Mm-hmm.
program for kids that are underperforming. I remember in fourth grade, I was lifted out of. It's almost
Like a
religious.
like an angel.
Yeah, right. I was taken out of RSP and put back full time into regular classes, standard classes. I don't know what the technical terminology is for them. But then I do remember
Gen Ed
now my
is what it is
kiddies.
now.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
general ed.
yeah.
But and then by sixth grade, I was in honors classes,
Hmm.
and at the time, somebody. I always have a hard time with this because I'm somebody along the line fucked up, but also like I don't want to throw everybody involved under the bus. Like I don't know how my parents would have known any better. This was a time before we were readily getting on the internet. They were trusting the school psychologist or whoever was
Hmm. I
working
mean,
on it.
and that is I don't want to say standard, but that still happens a lot today. Oh, the school, okay, this is what they said, we'll just trust it.
Yeah. And so and there's something to be said for deferring to experts on some things, but yeah. But yeah, they said, well, his grades are up, which wasn't taken as hey, the medication's doing its job. This is exactly how it should work. It was taken as, well, apparently he doesn't have ADD anymore. So,
Well, okay, I have something to say about that because
mhm.
I'm not going to bore everyone with the actual DSM criteria because I could and I think it's fascinating, but that's just for me. I'll summarize, but one of the major critiques is that it is something that you can be in remission for, which
Mhm.
to me I don't see how that's possible. It's not the same with ASD and other neurological things.
Really?
Yes. And I think that this is faulty. I think that ADHD, now I'm getting treated for it, right? I've
Mhm.
had behavioral shit in place my entire life because that's just, you make your environment work for you. Or I did.
Mhm.
And
Right.
uh just because I have Adderall and I take it almost every day,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that it is gone. It
No.
is still very there, and I think it's pervasive. I don't think it's going anywhere because it's the way my brain is wired. So
Yeah.
I think the diagnosis, as far as the DSM has it, I think it's wrong. And you know what? Those fuckers who sit there and decide that shit need to get it together. I don't know them. I have some feelings about diagnoses. There's a lot of like honestly politics and insurance and
Mhm.
pharmacological reasons why things exist there. It's mostly good, but I think that there's a lot of time spent debating things that don't really matter, and then there's shit like this where it's like, okay, I've had ADHD my entire life. Now I'm diagnosed with it. I don't think I'm getting rid of it, and it's not because like you know yeah, it's not like depression where it can lift or be in remission, but a person,
Right.
could cycle through it, or they could just have it for like a certain period of time, like clinic, like based on, the criteria for those things. You may not always qualify, but I always qualify for this.
Right. Well, and two, I was gonna say, and it's something I think we touched upon last week, but that I've always said ADHD was named by people who don't have it because there's no deficit of attention. It is too
Right.
much attention. It is wanting to pay attention to everything. It is, um, yeah, and but I think that's a lot of it is, and I don't know as much on the ASD end, but so much of it is. Seems to be, or at least classically has been, and hopefully we're moving away from it, but is a judgment of how you look on the outside of like, oh, your grades are up, now you're fine, and it's like, but I'm still dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, I didn't have the cognitive ability at that age to figure out. I was just like, okay, I don't take that pill anymore. I'm, you know, I'm
Do
doing
you do
fine in
you
school.
remember? I'm curious. Do you remember feeling the difference in how your brain felt with and without it?
Honestly, when I was a kid, not really.
Hmm. I
Um,
only ask because a friend of mine, her son, now takes it. It's been over a year, I think, and she says, I can tell when he needs to take it because he doesn't listen, he's not respectful, he's blah 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 blah. But then he'll say, "Mom, I need to take my medicine. My brain is on fire." Like,
wow.
yeah, So I don't know if that's just him, or maybe you said those things and you don't remember, or I don't know what it's
Yeah.
like. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say when I was a kid, like I say, the biggest distinct I have two distinct memories, and that is going at lunch every day to go take my medicine, and then which was and granted it was a fairly low dosage of Ritalin, and then I do remember a meeting with my teachers where we looked over my grades and seeing them having gone from D's to A's,
mhm.
um, which I think that was about the time they streamlined me. Haha, I do know that one.
Mainstream,
Man,
mainstream.
damn it! I think streamlining is a drug thing. I'm so
Is it?
lame.
It's
I'm
also a
so,
business thing. You're not lame.
I'm so square.
Listen,
It may be a drug thing.
maybe it is a drug thing.
Um, but yes, mainstreamed. They mainstream me. I think that was the thing. But yeah, it is such a weird thing because it is, and this will tie back into some stuff maybe later. But hint hint. But that it is so much based on what people are seeing of you and not the insane chaos that's going on inside.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, there's a lot. I've been in the autism world professionally for 18 years now. I can't even believe I can say that.
Wow.
Um,
And that's good. Autism as a real thing, not as like a Hollywood um, Rain Man style thing,
yeah,
but
that's
as a real thing has not been on. I don't think been on a lot of people's radars for even 18
no.
years.
No,
Um,
it hasn't. I'll say this with a disclaimer. Having worked with hundreds of clients and families and things like that, and I mean, data will back this up too,
mhm.
but, the perception that, they are so, I'm air quoting here, people who are not watching this, that they are so smart or whatever. Like, it's this perception of Rain Man savants,
Mhm.
the kid that can sit there and like
Yeah.
bang out some crazy shit on a piano or something.
Mhm.
Which, yes, it exists. The IQ, however you want to measure that, it's stratified just as it is for neurotypical people as far as ASD goes. Like, they, in quotes again, are not any smarter or dumber or whatever than any other person. It's just a different way that their brain is wired and how it affects their communication,
Yeah.
their interests, their there's a lot that goes into that, which we'll also get into later. But people are, I don't know, and people still say
Yeah.
retarded, and I just hate it. Please stop.
Oh my god. And the one that gets me the most is specifically liberal people who say it uh, as they're quoting like Republican people or right wing people, and I'm like, you still said it. Stop it.
I don't know what you're referencing, but I can
Oh.
imagine, and I don't.
Like anytime they'll say something like oh, I guess I'm just a libtard, and I'm like, it's not cool to say. It's still not cool to say, even though you're saying it about yourself. That's not how this works. This is not what we're doing here. We just shouldn't use that particular slur, and it is a slur. Not use that slur anymore. Not only anymore, we probably shouldn't have been using it for at least the last decade,
You
maybe
know,
more.
our producer Robin did let me know something that I'd never thought about. So
Hmm.
a lot of terms that we use for things that we don't like or think are stupid or idiotic, those all used to be DSM diagnoses or diagnoses of people who had intellectual disabilities.
Oh yeah, I
And
didn't think about that.
I didn't either. She and as far as she was not like concerned, but it was just kind of like that will eventually just like slide into things and not be as offensive. And maybe it's
Hmm.
because we they finally removed. Actually, did they? I don't have the DSM here. Actually, I have the
Hmm.
TR, the 4 TR in my room, so that's not going to be helpful. I don't know if it's quite made it out of there yet or not. uh,
Mm.
but yeah, I feel like we shouldn't say it because that's the most recent one and it is super unkind. Like there's a difference between
Hmm.
calling someone an idiot and calling someone retarded. Like
Yeah,
it's just so much more weighted. It's just not okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, but it is like, cause like I'm even thinking about it now, and obviously, the R slur I think is the most fresh, the most current, and at a certain point you run out of options. But not that you say it, but in other
Mm-hmm.
words to say. But I think like even idiot was a medical diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
at one point. Lame would probably
Mm-hmm.
be a medical
Yeah.
diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could probably stupid was just a general. That's why I stick with asshole. It's
We can keep
non-gender. It's just
true.
everybody's got an asshole, and you're being one right
A
now.
100%. I 100% agree. I
Hmm.
don't love the word pussy in any way you could use it. I just think
Hmm.
it's gross. um, as an owner of one, I can say I think it's disgusting. And when I honestly, okay, I used to when I was married and a little bit after I got divorced. I started playing adult co-ed softball, and I used to play as a kid, and then that's a whole other story, not
You
for
played
now.
adult co-ed softball as a kid.
Yeah, I did. No, I played competitive fast pitch as a
Okay.
teen tween, not quite. I wasn't driving, um,
Hmm.
but um, people would say, put the skirt on or whatever, and I would just like I couldn't handle it. I said things. I'm just like
Is put the skirt on like a
not that. So like if a man strikes out,
Oh
they
yeah, yeah.
typically like to make them wear like a tutu or something along those lines. It all has to do with girls, and I'm like, I can fucking hit, bro. Like,
Right.
stop. Maybe make them wear a diaper. Like 51% of this entire earth is female,
Hmm.
and that female and male and other are across all nationalities.
Hmm.
I'm just saying. There's a
Yeah.
lot of us vaginas out there.
Um, no, I was going to say though, to your point, I have. It's not with me right now, but my water bottle has a sticker on it. It's a roller derby girl, and it says "Fight like a girl,"
Mm-hmm.
which I have always.
100%.
I
I
love that.
thank you. I love the term feminism has such a visceral reaction from a lot of males, I would say, and some
I,
females too.
I was going to say a lot. Like I mean, we're California, but
Yes.
a lot of women voted for Donald Trump. I'm going to guess they weren't proud feminists.
Yeah, who knows? I all I can say really to just stop talking about all of this right
Hmm.
now is I mean, for me, I like seeing it, intentional male feminism because
Hmm.
feminism isn't the whole, oh, burn our bras and women are inherently better than men. Like, it's not about that,
No.
it's just why does genitalia have anything to do with ability? That's it.
Yeah. Well, and I know there was something about moving on in there, but you kind of hit a little nerve for me, so I'll throw
Okay.
that out there. And it's something I've said a billion times that, and I know they're buzzwords and people cringe or whatever, but if men think that the patriarchy is doing them any favors, they're either like 5% of the lucky ones, or it's not. It's like we also there's no benefit to us not being able to hug our friends without saying no homo. It's
Yeah,
just
that's bullshit.
it is ridiculous what we've been, and stuff that people will bring up every time is like, oh, men also have it hard because of X, X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yes, but X, Y, and Z are also part of the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's winning under this system.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's named after us doesn't mean we're winning. And I know I have maybe a certain maybe a dog in that fight, because I was growing up a decently effeminate young man.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff that I've more leaned into positively as I've grown up. Certainly, you know, uh, called my fair share of homophobic slurs, and been compared to women on numerous occasions for my actions, especially having a voice in a higher register. I've been told to use my man voice because when I get excited about things, my voice will go up even higher. And just that's kind of just especially as I get older, it's all such bullshit, and kind of like to just I don't know put certain stuff on the table now. As an adult, I do identify as queer. I do not identify as a woman. I'm a cis man. Um, but just because, well, first of all, I am not the kind of queer they were calling me. And just because you got it right doesn't mean that you using it as a slur was okay either.
Yeah, no, that has nothing to do with you as a person. It has everything to do with like, I don't know if it's like internalized homophobia. I don't really know the things how to talk about that, but you know, to make such a big deal about it, why? And also, I mean, now you got me going too because society fucking sucks. Like, okay, here's the purest way I can put this, because gender, as far as like presentation, is very social and cultural.
Yeah.
And I had a family. They had 4 kids at the time.
When you say had a family, just that were clients of yours?
Clients, yes. I did not have a family of my own.
I figured that. I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page.
I appreciate that because no one knows what I've done. I have not disclosed my actual career yet. I am not against talking about it. I just haven't got there. So I was a supervisor on these 2 kids' cases, and so the mom was telling me, she's like, I won't say his name, blah, 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 is gay. And I said, oh, okay, well, why do you think that? I think he was like 7 or 8 at the time. And she was like, well, he really likes purple and pink, and he always wants to watch Doc McStuffins. And I said, oh, that's why, okay. Well, I mean, I didn't say it like, ugh, stupid. Like, obviously, she was concerned. She didn't seem like upset about it. She was just like, I think this is a thing. And the things that she said, I said, look, your kid, this kid had difficulty with speech, but his receptive language was really good. Like, he could understand to a point what was going on. You know, he would go get things and bring them back like he was, mom's helper or whatever, but not, didn't understand, that certain products were for girls, in quotes, and some were for boys or whatever, like, so I just kind of explained it like, I don't know what his sexual orientation is, but all I know is he likes what he likes. His eyes are drawn to purple and pink, and he likes Doc McStuffins. And to me, that is just the things that he likes, and it doesn't feel connected to who he likes.
Right. And
so,
yeah,
I don't know. a lot of these things are constructs, and
Mm-hmm.
I just, do better, people. Like,
Yeah.
I played with GI Joes. My brother played with My Little Ponies.
I have played more than a handful of times. I have played Dream Phone with my little sister,
Aw.
and so
You
my
know,
daughter
and
always wants to join us. I'm like, no, go play. No, I'm kidding. When I was a kid, I played Dream Phone. It
yeah.
was back when they got the new. It was very exciting because they had the cordless one with the batteries, and you could dial up the number,
Oh,
and you'd
I've never
actually hear
played
a guy's
it.
voice. Yeah.
Huh.
See, there you go. I happen to be the Dream Phone expert
There you
on this
go.
particular podcast.
You are.
Hmm.
I had a game called Perfect Match,
Ooh.
and I was not attracted to any of these boys on there. I mean, I am a hetero, I guess you say cis female. Is that
Hmm.
right? I
Yeah,
don't know. Like, I've
a
heard the
cis
term cis.
woman.
Like, I'm a cis woman. I've heard that term like 3 times. I'm not
Hmm.
connected to social media in that. I don't watch the news often. I don't understand
Yeah,
things sometimes.
it's,
Um,
yeah, and cis is just I believe Latin for the same or something along
okay,
those
so
lines.
I
Like,
present female and I'm anatomically female. That's what that means.
that you've never transitioned from anything. You
Okay.
are what you are on your birth certificate, your original birth certificate.
Yes, I am. I am. Yes. Now. I forget where we were going with this, but gender stuff is really important, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, we're going backwards. My friend Pedro and I, we got Handmaid's Tale bonnets tattooed on ourselves the day after Roe versus Wade overturned,
Hmm.
because
What? No.
I'm a hello. I know about that.
Yeah.
um, well, all right. Well, write in and tell us your thoughts
Yeah.
too. These are very important things, though, to talk
Hmm.
about, and it affects us in different ways. And I think it probably does, circle back to neurodiversity in some way.
Yeah, well, and this is a point you've brought up before. That even if you were diagnosed when you were younger, that it would have been, and maybe one of the reasons you weren't is because you're a girl, and they
Yeah,
just weren't looking for it in girls at that time.
they weren't.
It was for for whatever reason. Like I just like it's so insane now to say it out loud. Like it was a weird kind of cootie that only guys were getting.
Yeah.
Only young boys, because they weren't looking for it in adults at all either.
No.
This was largely thought to be a problem with children that would eventually even itself out.
Yeah, like grow out of it or
Which
whatever. And it was just rambunctious little boys.
hmm
you
boys will
know.
be boys. I hate that
I
saying.
hate that too. I
Yes.
mean, then I'm a boy too, if that's the
Yeah.
definition, because I would just do whatever. I was always running around outside playing.
Hmm.
I couldn't sit quietly anywhere as a child.
I
That
know
wasn't a thing.
a lot of the girls I knew were also outside playing. It's just and you know what? Even more girls today are doing
No
the
one,
modern day equivalent of playing
right.
video
I
games.
was gonna say, no one's outside playing anymore. We've made sure everyone's getting kidnapped if they are, so.
That was it. That was our parents. But they'll still yell at us about it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Do you want to use this
Yeah.
opportunity to talk about getting diagnosed later in life and getting diagnosed not as a girl but as a woman?
I've been diagnosed as a woman. God, why?
The test results are back. You are a woman.
It's a girl. Fuck. Like, it drives me crazy, actually. I used to think about this as a kid. Like, people want boys first because they want to carry on the name. Like, fuck all of it.
Mhm.
Anyway, we're
Ooh,
moving on.
okay. We are, but
Okay.
my
One
last
more.
point, my
Mm-hmm.
last point, I absolutely adore this, and I wish I knew of it before I was married and have kids. There is a First Amendment lawyer by the name of Bob Corn Revere, and him and his wife, he was born Bob Corn, and when him and his wife got married, they decided that he would keep his name Bob Corn, and she would keep her name. We'll call her Sally Mae. But they would each pick a new name, a new last name that they agreed on, and that their kids would have that last name. And so, as fans of American history, they picked Revere. But now he goes by Bobcorn Revere. His wife goes by Sally Mae Revere, or whatever other name I made up for her before that. And
You
their
did.
kids.
You did the right one.
Oh, yeah. And their kids will be, like little Bobby Revere and little Jenny Revere. And
Cute.
so it's, I thought that was a really cool way of still keeping because everybody keeps their own name, and you still kind of get this family line going through.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Do what you want, do what feels right. Okay, there's nothing wrong inherently, I guess, with changing up one's name. It's just think about why.
Yeah, and be open to the idea that there might be something better.
Yeah, something brand new sounds fun. Okay, well, I mean, I think I kind of talked about my diagnosis journey, but I didn't get all the way into it. So I won't harp too much on this, but when I was married, that person was very anti basically everything I stood for, it turns out, but very sneaky about it. It's how it kind of like fleshed out, not verbally, outside of the house. So this person was very not into like, okay, mental health stuff. No, you don't need to take medications for anything. This person is sober and AA also, so there's a lot of that influence into that. So that was just kind of like drilled into my head. I knew I had ADHD. So as soon as we got separated, I was like, what? I think I want to get diagnosed. And this was 3.5 years ago. And I lost the paperwork because I have ADHD, and they make it really fucking hard at Kaiser and probably everywhere. It's not an easy system, and you really need to be committed. So like they sent me the things, and all I had to do was fill mine out, have my mom fill one out about me as a child, and then someone who knows me now.
Yes.
And lost it all because I had to move.
Oh no.
And then I just let it go because things were just moving so fast. Like we separated. Like I found out what was going on a Friday, and by that Sunday, he had decided a lot of things, and haven't seen him. Well, that's not entirely true. Hadn't seen him since until about 3 months ago. But he all of our stuff was separated financially within a week. And that's probably a lot. Everything moved so fast. It was just so much. And I was just keeping my head above water at that time. So I'm not surprised that I let that go. But
no. I would have been amazed if you had done that. And not because it's you, but anybody had done that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of emotions. I was grateful. Don't get me wrong. I am so relieved to be out of that. The more that I'm out of it and understanding and coming into my own person, the more I realize how unhealthy it was, I mean, I wasn't helping it either, but I also didn't do a lot of the things that happened there. And I'll just leave that there. But, so I got promoted at work. So I work for an ABA company, started out in my career, not at this place, but at another place, as a one-to-one working with people on the spectrum or majorly behavioral diagnoses that would warrant behavior therapy. And just kind of moved up the ranks. Never wanted to become a BCBA because I don't want to get licensed in anything. I don't want to be pigeonholed.
And BCBA is, again, for our listeners?
Board Certified Behavior Analyst. I just wasn't that committed. I love ABA. I don't want to make that box the thing that I sit in for the rest of my life. And clearly I haven't needed to be licensed in anything because now I'm the chief development officer of my company. So
congratulations.
Thank you. That happened over the summer. So 2.5 years ago now is when I started working in the office full time, and it's really difficult. And I just couldn't get myself fully engaged, and I kept gaslighting myself, saying, this is what people want. Like, people want to have an office to themselves. People want to have a fair amount of say in what goes down in a company, whatever it is.
Right.
Be in charge of a lot of things. But for me, it was like, yeah, I'm overseeing a ton of shit. Still am. I don't have a lot of actual tasks that I complete, and I definitely need that to feel like I'm doing something. So I was struggling with that for a while, and I was like, okay, how would I just restart this process again? Maybe with medication. Maybe some psychiatrists will have a little bit more tips, although I don't know how, because I've not only just researched it, but just like I know how to modify an environment. You don't stay in a field for so long modifying other people's environment without doing it yourself, or at least I don't. So I made the request and I qualified for therapy again, so I did it, and that's how I got connected with the EMDR therapist, which was awesome and probably also really helped. But the assessment process is long in the sense that it takes Kaiser forever to find you an appointment for something. So when they received my paperwork, it was about 6 weeks out, and I called and I got on some short list where if there were cancellations, so I got my timeline moved up a little bit. And I walked in, actually, I was like, I've never actually like sat here and like, are they going to be thinking that I'm trying to get, Adderall so I can sell it or use a lot of it or something? Like, are they going to think I'm a drug addict? Which I shouldn't have to think that,
No.
No. Because I'm very not. And I was prepared to explain why I thought I had this and da-da-da-da. But I walked in, and this person was, I was like, wow, she is a lot younger than me. She has.
I hate how often that happens now.
I know. No, I'm like, great for her. She's great.
I remember actually my last therapist, we were talking, I'll let you get, I'm sorry, I didn't need to catch up, but my last therapist, we were talking about Columbine. And I was like, just because that was, that happened when I was a freshman in high school, and I wore a lot of black in horror movie shirts, and people just looked at me weird after that. So that was something I was talking about in therapy, and I was, I brought it up, and I was like, I was a freshman in high school when it happened, and she was like, oh, I was too. And I was like, oh, wow, she's much. Oh, she was 2 years old. That's what she means. She means she was 2 years old. I was like, hey. Oh, nope, she was 2 years old.
To our credit, we're not that old, okay? We're 40.
40.
But to some, we would be grandparents. To some, we are ripe old age to have a new baby.
I will say I got a 20-year-old running around in the world, so I may become a grandparent. Who knows? I hope not.
Possible.
I mean, one day.
It's within the realm of possibility. The timeline is open.
Yeah.
I forgot. Oh, so this person is younger than me. But I walked in and I sat down, and she was like, well, they diagnosed you with combined type. And I was like, what? I thought you were going to have to talk to me.
I'm
this
very
is
lonely. I'm not a drug dealer. I'm just lonely.
Right. I don't know that I've ever felt lonely, other than when I was married. I'm not sad about it. It's just what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't think that was a thing because it was just paper, and those things were self-report. Well,
and you did give one to your mom, correct?
The first time, I just winged it. Second time, I did give it to a coworker.
Okay.
The other one, but I was like, I can't literally have her fill this out in order to get this done in time. I remember what she said. I know what I was like. I did that. You're probably not supposed to do that, but I did it. I hope she's not listening. I don't think it would make a difference because I very clearly have this.
What are they going to do? Take away your diagnosis? That's
right?
it.
But like with Kaiser, it's so hard to get them. Like, and they hide them. So I don't think my regular doctor can see that. They can see the drugs I'm taking, but they can't. They have an extra layer of like HIPAA protection or something in that system. Anyway, so combine and I was like, I had some stereotypes in my head about that because I didn't think I was hyper, even though clearly my entire childhood I thought, oh, maybe I'm just inattentive type now because I mean I don't know that I've really ever been bored because my brain is so active and interesting to me. But I also, you probably will notice if you're watching this, I haven't stopped moving. I have a swivel chair and I've just been going like back and forth and I'm just moving all the time.
And I forget who it was. It was somebody on YouTube, I know. But they said that hyperactivity can be with inside your brain as well.
Well, right. So let me look at some of the research because, like, in adults, hold on. So for adults, the symptoms look different because the DSM is written like you're diagnosing a child because they haven't. I mean, it's still primarily diagnosed in children. It probably is the biggest group of people who are getting diagnosed just because more you can do with it. I guess you could say there's a lot more help and treatment available.
Let me ask you a real quick question before we get into it, though, just because you are more of an expert on this than I am, which is to say at all. But DSM, we're at 5, right?
5 text revision.
Okay, so when did that drop?
The text revision dropped in 2022.
Okay. So the DSM-5 is only a couple of years old? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, well, the DSM-5 dropped in, like, 2013, 2014, something like that. And then the 5 text revision, so they made some updates. And they were decent updates.
So it's the 5th version of Volume 5 we're on right now, which came out a couple years ago.
Second version of Volume 5.
Okay.
Before that is the 4 text revision. Anyway, I don't want to. I mean, you were diagnosed. I looked this up actually. When in 1992, the DSM-4 had just come out.
Ooh.
And then, go ahead.
I was going to say, I wonder if that's why kind of ADHD was starting to make a rise, starting to be known at that time.
Possibly. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. It's crazy to me though because that dropped in like 92, I think, exactly. Mm-hmm. And then I don't remember when exactly the text revision of the 4th came out. Mm-hmm. But we're looking at a 30-year span of time where the same criteria are being utilized.
Right.
20 years, not 30. But still, that's a really long time to just not look at stuff or look at it one time. That's... things are rapidly changing and there's a lot more awareness and activity within many groups now. So, yeah, I hope we have a 6th soon.
Well, and too, like, I wonder, and it's just something I've never thought about till like right now of like how much information do we have about, we'll just say autism, but we're waiting to update the book because we don't have enough new information about maybe anxiety or something like that. Or
yeah. I mean, I can totally see that. And it's like, that's why that whole system of publishing these things is more on the political side than help side. Like help is like a byproduct, I feel like, in a way. I don't want to get too into it. I don't want to, open up my...
We'll have an episode where we do.
But now may not be the time. But all systems are flawed inherently. I don't know that anything's gotten it right 100% of the time across settings, people, whatever. Yeah. But this one is a hot topic and not the store. Okay, but for adults, let's see here. So adult symptoms will likely look different than a child's. Hyperactivity in a child may be getting out of a classroom seat and running around, while an adult might tap a pen on the table over and over during a meeting, spin around in her chair, like me, or doodle energetically. And for a formal ADHD diagnosis, symptoms should have to be present. Let's see. I mean, the symptoms do have to be present as a child. So, like, those criteria do need to be present historically. As an adult, you only need 5 of either one. Whereas as a child, you need 6 of the criteria, which I could just list them off really quickly without reading every word. So failing to give close attention to details, difficulty sustaining attention. This is all for inattention type, because now it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So you could have inattention, you could have hyperactivity, or you could have both, like me. I don't know. Do you know what you have?
And both of them fall under the category of ADHD.
Correct.
We don't use the term just plain ADD anymore.
It's not a diagnosis anymore. I think people use that term, but now I think it's just easier because now there's one code for it.
I don't remember which kind I got diagnosed with.
I mean, I guess you'll see how you identify here. Okay, so again, inattentive symptoms, and listen up for yourself as a listener, or maybe for your child if you're curious. My dad did say that I could talk about his stuff in general.
Oh, yeah.
But he's going through the process of getting diagnosed through Kaiser in Northern California, which we're in Southern California, and those two things are not the same.
No.
So
there's bears up there. There's bears down here. I don't know why I noticed that.
Bears and snakes and shit everywhere. But their process is a lot more hefty. And this is his second go around because the first time he misunderstood the directions, right? So that is ADHD sign number one. They did this over the phone, and my dad, I encouraged him to not minimize things, which not that he has a tendency to minimize things, but just not make them sound so bad. It's like you kind of want to explain yourself on your worst day. That's what they need to hear.
Right.
You know,
I was gonna say my mom has a tendency to minimize things and to minimize and make not sound so bad or so out of the ordinary. Like, and this isn't like a direct quote from her or anything, but just the kind of thing like, "Hey, cut a snake's head off," but kids cut snake's head off.
That's what kids do. I know.
I understand weird. That. It is weird. Oh, I totally get that, but you know,
Yeah, I mean, my dad doesn't sound like that, but the tendency is there. You know?
Yeah.
But his story is for him to tell, but I know his life wasn't easy and he had to mask forcibly as a child. So there's a lot that goes into the way that he is now. And so being able to speak up about it and advocate for himself, and he is getting some traction in round 2 of getting diagnosed. So I'm very proud of him. And it is possible. And he's 65 almost, so it's never too late.
Nice.
Okay, so inattentive symptoms, just real quick, I'll start again for the third time. Fails to give close attention to detail. So that's one. Often has difficulty sustaining attention in tasks or play activities. Often does not seem to listen when spoken to directly. Often does not follow through on instructions or fails to finish schoolwork, chores, or duties in the workplace. Often has difficulty organizing tasks and activities. Often avoids, dislikes, or is reluctant to engage in tasks that require sustained mental effort. Often, if it's not preferred.
Yeah, I was biting my tongue on that one. I was like, let her get through the list. It's okay.
No. Often loses things necessary for tasks or activities. Is often easily distracted by extraneous stimuli. Is often forgetful in daily activities. I'm a 10 out of 10 or however many this is. Let's see.
Yay.
Yeah, it's a 9. 9 out of 9. I don't know. For that one. So
I thought it's going to be bad. I thought of a joke halfway through about how it just sounds like a super punk kid, and then I missed a few of them.
Oh, you were having difficulty maintaining attention because you got distracted by extraneous stimuli in your brain? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You have ADHD? Really? Just
maybe
kidding.
A little.
Okay, and then potential hyperactivity symptoms. Fails to give close attention to detail or makes careless mistakes in schoolwork, at work, or during activities. Often has difficulty sustaining attention in tasks or play activities. That is the same as one above. Okay. Often does not seem to listen when again, same as above. Often does not follow through on instructions. Okay, we've done this before. Often loses things necessary. Is often distracted by what the hell? These overlap quite a bit.
Yeah.
If you idea, I told you it's Thursday and my brain is tired. If you identify with 5 or more of those things and you're interested in getting diagnosed, you probably have a shot.
Yeah, yeah, and like we've both mentioned Kaiser. We just both happen to be through Kaiser, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and that's certainly a route you can go. But there are a lot of things popping up around the internet now um,
Mm-hmm.
that are leading people to be able to get a diagnosis, and I
Yeah.
think those are really cool. And hopefully, I'll remember to put some of those in the show notes. None of them are coming
Yeah.
to me off the top of my head right now, but
Oh,
we'll definitely add some of those in the show notes.
yeah, for sure. And I do think it is important to consider before we start talking about autism and things too.
Hmm.
Um, there's generally a purpose for getting a medical diagnosis for something. For me, that is how I can get access to the nice drugs that make my brain focus on things.
Hmm.
If that wasn't a thing, I don't think I would have pushed as hard because I already knew I had it. I didn't need that extra validation. It is nice to be validated, but now the
Hmm.
neurod community is super welcoming, and you
Yeah.
don't need one to participate there or live your life. You can make lots of behavioral modifications in your own space wherever it is. I have to trick myself almost all day long to do stuff I don't want to do.
Hmm.
So yeah, it just kind of depends. Some people are like, get diagnosed no matter what, but it's like, if you don't
Right.
need it, if you don't need it for, if you're not interested, I love having the Adderall, okay?
Mhm. I thought
Because
you were going to some mystery about my brain.
oh, I
Hmm.
love my whole brain and how fucking weird it is too.
Hmm. Yeah.
But for me, I just didn't know life like this could be possible.
Hmm.
Um, but if you're diametrically opposed to medication, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I
There's
burped.
no.
I'm not
I was gonna
masking
say
it.
there's certainly other ways, and or there are other things you can do. I would argue, for me at least, and for many people I know, um, that medication is just such an important part of the equation, and that there is no amount of meditation or anything, or brain tricks or anything like that that's going to add up to that medication for that individual.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to kind of I like to kind of temper it, or throw those caveats in there of there's I don't want people to get hopeless. If you're against medication, then there are other things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
But if medication does, if there's a path for medication for you and it seems like you may need it or it would benefit you, I would urge you to consider that.
I would agree with
There's
that.
nothing wrong with being on
Mm-hmm.
medication.
And I think if because I found myself in this boat. It wasn't like I just was like, well, my ex husband thought like this, and that's why I'm thinking like this. It wasn't that easy. So
Mhm.
I had to really tease it out and say, okay, it's me. Why do I feel so uneasy about the idea of taking medication? Where is that coming from?
Mhm.
Okay, looking at my, childhood. What do you call that? What do you call the family unit you were raised in? There's an N.
A nuclear family?
Yes, yeah. I was gonna say there's an N word to describe it, but that
Whoa.
would have sounded really
I know,
bad.
right?
But you knew what I meant,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
didn't have to say it until after, and now I'm not
By
in
the
trouble.
I know there's like subtle differences maybe between that, like nuclear and nuclear and nuclear. And I might have said an explosive family or something like that, but I think everyone knows what I
I mean,
mean.
families are explosive.
Yeah, that's true.
Can you say the word again? I lost it. It is
Nuclear or nuclear.
nuclear. My nuclear family
Mm-hmm.
is not opposed to medication. Whatever your
Mm-hmm.
doctor said you should take it
Mm-hmm.
as prescribed, and don't take other people's medication. Is also how I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
So when I looked at that, I was like, okay, so this wasn't like a formative thing. So then where did
Mm-hmm.
this come from? And then it wasn't. It didn't start off like medication is bad, blah 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 blah, but it just kind of like built slowly over time, as it does in certain situations
Yeah.
where the ideas they start off as like little comments that are easy to dismiss, and then they turn into some big, huge thing, having to do with control. And so this is just one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, don't, this is all bad. You should be strong enough on your own. And I have a hard time with that. A lot of people do subscribe to that. And I feel a lot of those people tend to be sober or in some way. I'm not trying to slam an entire community. That shit works, if you work it, as does many things, right?
Right.
It's just like, if we all knew what we needed, we're inherently fucked. Like, we don't know that. That's why we need help.
Right, right.
And I don't think that a person is innately just strong enough to handle everything,
No. It's one of the reasons I started phasing out the phrase crutch from my language of like, well, it's just a crutch. And like, the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, but sometimes people need crutches. Like, that's what they're there for. I hurt my leg, sprained my ankle when I was a kid. Crutches suck. They hurt your armpit a lot and nobody wants to use them, but somehow they're how you fucking walk.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of times it's like, oh, medication is just a crutch. Yeah, it's how I fucking walk.
Right. But to that, on that analogy, doesn't hurt, makes my life infinitely better. I wouldn't say that you walked better with a crutch. It was just how you were able to stumble along and not fall over. Right. I am fucking flying. Okay. And not because I'm high. It's because it's just so hard to describe how something so little. I started off with 10 milligrams of extended release Adderall, which is like probably the minimum amount you can have. And I'm only on 20 now in the morning, and then I have an afternoony 10 rapid release if I need it. So all day 30 milligrams, which some people, that's their first dose and they have to do 3 of that or something. Like, it can get pretty wild. And just we kind of talked about it last week, and it's really hard to articulate because it's just it's not one specific thing. It's just the beauty of being able to order tasks. I just feel like so much more of me. I don't feel like a zombie. I don't feel like the things that people say when they take other drugs, like for depression or anxiety.
The zombie thing was always very weird for me because I think it's pretty much common knowledge at this point, but the medication that we use for ADHD is a stimulant. It's so should you be using it while you're not supposed to, or should you be using it while you're supposed to incorrectly? Zombie is not what would happen to you.
No, you would turn into some hyper zombie from World War Z or something.
Like, I know I've told you before, if I take mine close enough to drinking coffee, I get shakes bad, and I don't like the feeling. You've told me that your heart feels like it's going to explode sometimes.
I mean, it hasn't. It could. And I have heart issues, which is why I quit playing softball in my teens. And I don't know. I mean, my body is not super thrilled with me, but I'm able to live. I've had a few
I have
major
a very
things.
similar body.
But yeah,
I know I've mentioned it before, but diabetes.
What a bougie bitch.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like old money. It runs in my family.
Hey, take it where you can get it. So I'm conscious of it. I do know that Adderall speeds up your heart. I monitor my heart rate anyway, just because I'm not on any I'm not under any supervision anymore for anything. But like, I just am cautious, There's a certain way it can beat where I'm just like, oh, I might be having an episode, even though it hasn't really happened in, how old am I? 24 years? It's possible, not probable.
All right. One thing I was going to ask you really quick is, because my diagnosis process as an adult was a lot like yours. They gave me paperwork. They needed me, somebody, you said your mom, I also gave it to my mom, but it was somebody that had been in your life since you were a child because you needed that. I also gave it to my wife. I didn't know her as a child, but they needed someone else in life. And then me. And then it came back with varying results. And so did they take you in to play the video game?
No.
this was I just thought this was really interesting because I got different reactions from the 3 sets of paperwork. They brought me into, I call it playing a video game, but they set me up at a laptop and it would flash different letters, and I was supposed to hit the space bar when an X came up. I immediately started playing for a while of like, you just wait to hit the button in your X, and I hit it ahead of time so many times because like, it's gonna be X. That's not an X. No, no, it's next. And just like, I remember that, and it was, and also other questions and stuff, but I just remember that one the most, and that was kind of, I think that was just like the next stage of it if things come back different, that I got to do.
I wonder if that's what they're gonna do with my dad, because
Yeah.
I don't know. He had to make himself available for like 1 to 3 hours or something for his, and I was like, that's a really long time, but okay.
I was going to say, like, there's got to be people out there that just don't have somebody from their childhood that they can have fill out that paperwork, and what happens there. And
yeah, I mean, I know I kind of admitted that I cheated. I was not dishonest though, because there've been so many stories. Like Robin also pointed this out to me. Like, how many toddlers are famous for doing something weird, and mine was for annoying everybody to death, and finally learning I could call them mom, so that they would be kinder to me. Like, that's not, I guess that's not a thing people do. I don't know.
I tried it once, but I started calling people mommy. They were not happy with me. I mean, it was like last week, so.
Oh, you know. Yeah, no, I wish I could have played that game. I was honestly surprised that it came back that way, but I also had a lot of other things going for me. I knew that I knew how to take this test. This was about explaining myself on my worst day. Not about, oh, I don't really do that much. Like, that's where it happens. And I can assume that, you know, the people that you ask, they not even minimizing for you, but just kind of like, oh, he's not too bad, you know, but it also kind of just like mitigates the responses and forces you to play the X games.
Well, and too, like, you know, it's hard to think because obviously my mom knew me when I was a child, but also I've been masking this stuff for just almost as long, you know, ever since I've been socialized to other kids, and for a plethora of other reasons. We'll you know, I teased it at the beginning of the episode, but I think we're going a little long, so we may talk about the ASD process that I'm going through right now next week. But for a number of reasons, socializing as a kid, I was never very good at. And so I think I learned how to mask pretty early on. And so, you know, and also, like, I don't know that I want my mom to only remember the psychotic shit I did. Like, I would love for her to remember a whole picture of me. I don't care if she, you know, I don't need her to forget the weird things I did, the weird things making me me. But I don't want her to only remember it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think you said it. We've talked about a lot of things, and this is kind of how I think this is going to go, which I really like, you know. We did definitely talk about what we said we were going to.
I know.
However, we also had to talk about some other important stuff, you know. Like, that's how, in the moment, sometimes, you know, things come up and you got to talk about them, which for us nerds, that's just a totally normal thing.
Yeah.
You know.
And the space is kind of created so that not only that we can do that, but people like us can have can see conversations like that. Hopefully they have their own neuro-D people that they can have those conversations with, and that hopefully people, our neurotypical friends, can kind of see what it's like. And it's not bad. It's different.
It is different. I wouldn't categorize it as bad at all.
No.
It's just completely different from what I hear other people say that their lives are like.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those reasons where I do, and I think this was something that was maybe talked about off air or off record, off mic, but kind of ADHD and neurodiversities, whether or not they are an illness or a disability or all of this stuff. And I think, there's things to be said on both sides of that argument, and we probably don't have time to get into it right now. But I think that the thing that makes it interesting is, like, if we lived in a world of neurodivergent people, we wouldn't be different, it's struggling to adapt to a world of other people. And I mean, everybody to some degree, nobody lives in a world of clones. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, I didn't mean to. Okay.
No, you're good. You're good.
Last
totally
time, I noticed how cold I sounded sometimes, which, whatever, that's not how it feels. But that was one of those times where I was like, yep. And anyway.
I am the expert on what it feels like on the other end of it.
Oh.
It's fine. I'm totally good.
Great. Okay. I mean, to know me is to love me, or so I'm told. And now you're getting to know me. And yes, I absorbed everything you said. And now I'm ready to talk about the end.
That's got dark. No, okay.
The end. Okay. So, all right. Well, we only really had time for talking about ADHD today. We kind of got on some passion project discussions about it. But, for next week, you're going on your ASD diagnosis journey. It'll be interesting to hear about that, especially from an adult's perspective. I've seen, many children with autism post-diagnosis, worked in that field quite a bit. So while I'm not directly affected in my own self, I have worked extensively with people who have it and their families, and I feel pretty comfortable there. So yeah, if you like what you heard and are excited to hear what's coming next, please like and subscribe wherever you are listening. And pretty please, can we have a 5-star review? That would be nice. If you would like to follow us on social media, we are on Instagram as at InnerMoxiePod. Same on TikTok. It's an @ on TikTok too. At InnerMoxie. Okay. I don't That's TikTok. If you want to email us your stories or maybe your own diagnosis story or any questions or any, I hated everything you said, whatever you want to say, put it there. Send it to our email, myinnermoxiepod@gmail.com.
Honestly, in the right situations, not being told, but figuring out that I'm wrong about something is such a wonderful feeling. Of it's finding out that your zipper's down and you can zip it up again. So if our metaphorical zipper has been down, please feel free to let us know at the email.
Please do.
Preferably don't blast it over everywhere.
Yeah.
You gotta be a jerk about it.
Yeah, don't be a poopy head. Poopy head is gender neutral also.
Yes.
Everybody poops. I love poop. All right. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Zanism, Zannism. I guess I'm just going to say it every week. I am a religion and disease. That's just fun to me.
I like it. Because I did not know that about you until you said it, and I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
If you'd like to hear more of my ramblings, feel free to check out the Band Media Podcast. That's my other podcast. Also, you can follow me on all the social medias, but I am most on TikTok at Band Ronnie.
Yeah. So, till next time, stay fresh, cheese birds.
It still makes me laugh every time.
Right. Me too. Okay, bye.
Later. Bye.